Hi, we're Karen and Simon.
We're coaches with over 100 years' experience in being human and currently living in Bristol in the UK.
A coffee chat about emotions and being human and the challenges our coaching clients face led us to this series of videos.
We aim to share our thinking and experiences to help you navigate the mayhem of working life. So, let's get going.
Hi, good morning again, Karen. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, very good, thanks.
Fantastic. Yeah. Another sunny day in the UK, in the middle of our 3-week summer, I think.
Yes.
So we're gonna we're going to we're going to chat today about how to deal with other people's frustration, because this is another common thing when we talk to people, when we chat amongst ourselves, particularly about situations at work, isn't it?
Yeah, frustration is a really difficult emotion to manage in other people, isn't it? Certainly I tend to kind of try to hide from it, I guess, or freeze. If you think about the different kinds of stress response, yeah, so it's not easy to deal with.
Yeah, and for both of us, we care about people's energy. So anytime you're spending your own energy worrying or dealing with other people, then that's probably not the best. We need all the energy we can get all the time to live our best lives. So yeah, that's why I guess we're focusing on it today.
Yeah. When we think someone's going to be frustrated and when we got to give maybe a difficult message, it's really, like you say, yeah, we worry about it a lot. And it
Yeah,
stops us focusing on our work, other parts of our work.
it certainly does. And I can remember, and I mean, I was in the military for 23 years, and frustration kind of came at you from all sorts of different areas, but certainly the times I can remember having to deal with other people's frustration was when you're giving those really difficult messages or having those conversations up the chain. So you're having to go
Mm.
to your boss, who is already responsible for a lot of things and probably stressed and frustrated, just like everyone else. And you're having to give the boss some bad or unvarnished news that you think is really likely to cause more frustration.
Yeah, good one. Yes, that's probably one of the most scary ones, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's perfectly true to say scary. I don't care how old you are or how experienced you are. Um, you you spend a lot of time in advance worrying, being concerned, just giving your energy to the expectation of that frustration, which sounds really childlike, doesn't it? But it's true. As an adult, that's kind of how it feels.
Mm. Yeah, you don't want your boss to get angry or frustrated. A worst case scenario, we worry about our jobs or the repercussions that might land on us. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of thinking through. And I probably have got difficult messages talking upwards or, talking to bosses. I might be talking to my colleagues about it as well, about what words to choose, how best to soften the message. So you're right. Yeah, I'd spend an awful lot of time thinking about it, preparing for that meeting, for that conversation.
So going back to how we think things are going to happen, Karen, what are the kind of responses that we're likely to have if we're dealing with frustration in others?
Mm. So I guess when I'm preparing for a difficult conversation, I might be thinking, um, what is their response going to be? Maybe it might be anger in the meeting. They might start blaming other people. So I'm kind of making all these assumptions, usually in terms of worst case scenario about how they might respond. And then I might think about, well, if I word it this way or that way, maybe they might find it a little bit easier to take that message. Yeah, so I'm trying to think about the words and how to communicate the message, minimizing any potential frustration that might arise.
I guess what we're saying is we're taking almost 100% of the responsibility there for trying to ease the message, to reduce our managers' emotional workload. But how much of that responsibility is ours? Is it all our responsibility?
It's true. So I kind of grew up, I guess, with the assumption: don't give your boss bad news, give them solutions. Don't give them problems, give them solutions. So yeah, I feel it's my role to kind of um, not just give the bad news without a solution or potential options with it. So I'll be working really hard to think about, okay, what are the potential solutions? And you're right, yes, it's not there. It's they need to know quite often, don't they? Um, Definitely not a good option to kind of avoid having the conversation. You need to let them know quite soon, otherwise it's even worse if they find out for themselves through another route about something that's gone wrong or something that needs their urgent attention. Is not good to avoid it. You've really got to do it. Yeah, and the assumption is that they are responsible, and it's probably their part of their responsibilities to know this stuff. So yeah, it's my responsibility to let them know. But yeah, I've got all these assumptions about how I need to be and what our roles are, which kind of make it more difficult sometimes.
Okay, so Karen, we've explored. We have a responsibility to often package a message or information that we know might be taken in a way that creates frustration, and we have a responsibility to do that. Giving options, not problems. We can consider the timing of the message, the tone we use, and all that really good communication leadership stuff. But in the moment where the person we're talking to is obviously being frustrated, how can we protect ourselves from that?
I guess there's acknowledgement that everybody's human, and sometimes we think, okay, they're more senior, they should be more calm, they shouldn't be exhibiting frustration. But acknowledging that they are human and we all express frustration at some times, particularly nowadays when everything's so busy and yeah, well-being isn't great, is it? People are working such long hours. Um, yeah, maybe I'll be thinking about extracting myself from the conversation. Okay, if they're demonstrating frustration, um, maybe making sure there's clarity, they understand the message I was giving them. Um, yeah, I guess I'll be tempted just to get out the door quite quick.
To run
Sorry,
away.
my natural reaction, run.
But that's a thing, isn't it? We all are going to have grades of a natural reaction, aren't we? Um, you know,
Mm.
fight, flight, freeze is going to be in there somewhere. Uh, and yeah, you've got to forgive yourself for having that, that initial that initial thought to just run away as quickly as you can.
I'm kind of also thinking I want to bring the meeting to a conclusion. So I might be saying my bad message at the end of a meeting, and it'd be like, okay, what are the next steps? What do we need to do next? So that might be kind of helping to draw them to that. How are we going to work our way through this? What to do next? So help them to focus on what next rather than just where they're at with their emotions. Um, yeah, so that might be what I might be thinking about.
We wouldn't be coaches if we didn't try to bring in uh, to this area the idea that are we really sure that what we're seeing is frustration? Um, I'm not saying this is something that we should do in the moment because it's likely just to cause more frustration. But afterwards, have a think. What was the emotion that I think my boss was expressing? Because sometimes
Mm,
we can be quite wrong. Sometimes we can be imposing our own emotional needs on the boss, and perhaps the boss was just really energetic in probably more of a well-meaning way than we might have first thought. I guess there's all sorts of ways we could think about things afterwards to try and learn.
mm. That's a really good point. Yes, we might be misinterpreting, particularly if it's a new boss, we don't know them very well. Yeah, and then there's also the frustrations. We might give a message, and the frustration, we might not be expecting the frustration to be expressed. So, yeah, when I get that, when it comes across suddenly, it's okay. So, if frustration is an expression of something that's important to somebody, it's just trying to understand, okay, what's really important here. So, maybe there's some information I wasn't aware of, um, that's triggered the frustration, or some context that I wasn't aware of. And it's just helping to, yeah, I'll be really curious about what triggered this frustration, what was really important, or what's their perception of what's important. Firstly, to make sure I've communicated correctly, um, and then to try to understand. So yeah, when I'm working well, it'd be okay. What's really important here? What have I missed? If the frustration's coming suddenly, because it may be just as a communication glitch, further down up the line, we need to resolve. So frustration can be a really good way to kind of get to an even keel or to develop a relationship with someone, to develop that understanding, if we can both
Yeah,
talk about it.
it's a really strong, easy signal to notice, isn't it? Those big emotions, if you like. Obviously you can mistake them in some way, but they're strong signals that there's something a need not being met, and I think over time, because it takes practice to recognize it in yourself, never mind other people. But yeah, like you say, it takes time to build those really strong working relationships that sometimes we're lucky enough to have.
Mm. So I'm just thinking in the moment, so we talked about before, we talked about after, but in the moment, how would you respond if a more senior leader demonstrates frustration after you've communicated something difficult?
I think in the moment, you're going to have a period of time where you're going to have to deal with your own fight, flight, freeze feelings. And the more efficiently, the quicker you can get those through and out, I think the better, because then you can probably then be more aware of the context. Is this out of character, like you've said? Is this sudden? Is this part of um, an ongoing issue that your boss is dealing with, and you're the straw that's broken the camel's back? Uh, I have also in the past offered to um, let's go for a cup of tea. Let's go for a chat. What is wrong? Now that took an awful amount of courage, um, and I wasn't sure it was going to work. But actually, what then happened was my boss was able to confide in me um, about all sorts of things unrelated to work that were in the background, just preventing him from being anything but frustrated. So I think for me, it's all about getting through that fight, flight, freeze, and that discomfort that you have in your stomach when someone's yelling and you feel responsible. Um, just 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 go with it. Trust yourself. Just let it flow, and then get back into the listening and observing. Because we always want, as followers, we always want to be the best follower we can, and for our leaders to succeed.
Mm, you're right, yeah. So I'd be paying really intense attention to the person and what's going on for them. And I would, but in the moment, it would be okay, this has gone wrong and I really need your advice. I'd be trying to kind of, what do I need next to fix it? And trying to keep responsibility for the problem if I can, so it's not everything. Or, what can I do to fix it? I'd like you to do this or that to help it move forwards. So I'd be trying to focus on the problem and trying to kind of like, okay, this is how can we solve this together? To try and help them get out of that frustration mode into, okay, what's next? Because that's what we need to do, isn't it? And hopefully, usually the frustration is fairly fleeting, isn't it? And kind of moves into, okay, right, what we're going to do about it. So, yeah, so that's how I might respond in the moment. So that's all, and that's all in the preparation about thinking what I might say. Yeah, and then just giving them options as well. So yeah, just getting them focusing on the solution, on the problem, rather than the emotions around it. That's usually my approach.
We've pretty much covered a lot in a very small space of time. So, what are some of the takeaways, Karen?
Mm. So preparation, isn't it? If we're expecting someone to respond in a negative way or in a way that is expecting them to be frustrated, thinking about how we communicate the message, thinking about location, timing, um, and and thinking through if it is a problem, what are the potential things to move it forward. So it's a lot of preparation is there, choosing your words. I might say, okay, you're not going to like this, but so I might even preface it, signpost, I'm about to give you a difficult message, so it doesn't come completely out of the blue. So quite often, yes, the preparation is all. I'm thinking through how I might say it and making sure I'm really calm in advance of the meeting so I can pay full attention. So yeah, so that's a preparation. Then during the meeting, making sure that it's a good enough location, we feel safe, and giving the message in a kind of nice way, kind of focusing on what's next, kind of progressing the problem or the issue forwards, around trying to help that conversation so it doesn't stay with the frustration bit and doesn't, because sometimes when people are frustrated, it moves into blamey. So yeah, I really want it to move on. And
Yeah.
then afterwards thinking, phew, I might talk it through with a colleague. Like, did I do the right thing? What would you think? What would you have done? Yeah, and just kind of decompress for a bit. So sometimes I even go for a short walk just to get rid of that, just to complete that stress cycle. So I'm stress response. So I might, yeah, to
Yeah.
cope with it better.
And I think there's also, we talked about ways of protecting ourselves from the emotion of others. It's not
Mm,
easy at all, but it's just to be aware. It's just to be aware that nobody can impose their emotion onto you. It's trying to get through that flight, fight, or freeze in the moment as efficiently as you can. So you can just be a good human, and try and help, which is basically what we're all here for, isn't it?
mm. Yeah, so those are just some responses. There are many different ways of responding to frustration out there, and it's quite helpful to be mindful or to think about it so we can be well prepared. So
Yeah,
thank you,
absolutely.
Simon.
No probs. See you soon.
See ya.